All right, looks like we're live, and I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
The thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
Indeed. And there's really not much to talk about tonight. Holy shit. I got a couple of articles, and we're probably going to take callers.
But there is some good news.
But for the most part, there's not a lot of news that I really caught this week.
Super chats.
Yes, we have super chats back just in time for my birthday. My birthday's tomorrow.
Ooh.
So yeah, if you wanna send me a birthday present, you can be hitting up them super chats because I actually got the monetization back on this channel, which I did not expect. Of course, it would have been nice if I'd have gotten the monetization back before my James McDonald video, blew up from like 500 views to 20,000. But okay, I'll take what I can get. Stephen Williams just said hashtag filling her with cock meat. Indeed. That's how you got to do it. Lord. So other good news, I'm going to throw this article in the chat. Luke, you can hop onto it. This is off of
the black fucking bull that says filling her with cock meat, giving her the real fuck she deserves.
That never gets old. When is that going to stop being funny? Back off. I don't know. I hope never. So anyways, I threw an article in the chat here for us, Luke, on there's a new Orville comic. Now, if you watch the show regularly, you know I have raved about the Orville. I absolutely love this show. I contend that it's everything that was good about Star Trek with a lot more heart and a little less autistic. I love it. I love this show a great deal. There's been times when it's a little fedora tippy. There's a couple of times Seth MacFarlane has tipped his fedora at us in the show, but for the most part, I really adore the show. And I contend anyone who once loved Star Trek, if you're watching Star Trek Discovery and not the Orville, you're wrong.
You're very, very wrong.
You're very, very wrong. Okay. You need to, what are you doing with your life?
Like the earth is flat wrong.
Yeah. What are you doing with, like, that's dinosaur shaped earth wrong. That's how wrong you are. Okay. That's the people joking about the earth is shaped like a velociraptor. You're the dumbass that believe it. That's how wrong you are if you're watching STD and not the Orville.
Like Movie Bob's political opinions wrong.
Yeah, your Movie Bob's love life wrong. That's how wrong you are. Okay. Your crudely drawn Princess Peach on a pillow that he humps wrong. But anyways, some good news for me being a big old comic book dork is the Orville is coming to Dark Horse Comics, which isn't a surprise because Dark Horse has the rights of a lot of other Fox properties. I know they have the rights to Aliens and Predator comics and have basically forever. So I don't know how much the Orville is owned by Seth MacFarlane and Fox or whatever, but it's not surprising that that's the comic company it would come to. And I've kind of thought for a little while, like, I hope we get a comic. Well, we got a 4-part, 4 issues are going to be made as of right now. And they're going to be 2-parters, which are going to take place between seasons 1 and 2. I'll take a look at his Hollywood Reporter article. I've seen a few other articles on it. That's why I know it. But so we got off the Hollywood Reporter. Dark Horse Comics will bring Seth MacFarlane's sci-fi series to comic book stores with a new 4-issue series this summer. Not content with dealing with the Krill and the Kalon, the crews of Fox's The Orville have a new destination to explore: comic books. Heat Vision can exclusively reveal that a comic book series based on Seth MacFarlane's sci-fi comedy drama will debut this summer. Heat Vision, I guess, is the division at Hollywood Reporter that covers this shit, I guess. And this was the first place I saw it. Like all the other like comic news sites picked up on it afterwards, but it's the first place I saw it, at least. Written by executive producer and writer from the television series David A. Goodman, with art from newcomer David Casbia, and the cover art at least looks good, and colorist Michael Atia. The Orville will feature the Orville comic book will be a 4-issue series set between the first and second seasons of the Fox hit, split into two-issue storylines. Two-issue storylines. The series, set 400 years in the future, follows the crew of the USS Orville, a mid-level exploratory craft commanded by Captain Ed Mercer McFarlane, who also created the show and serves as one of its writers and executive producers, and First Officer Kelly Grayson. The series, which debuted in September 2017, was an immediate hit and quickly renewed for a second season, which began in December 2018. The first two comic book storylines, New Beginnings, sees Ed and Gordon's journey to a fleet conference interrupted by a distress call from what appears to be a Union ship that's older than a century, while Kelly has to intercede a domestic dispute on board the Orville itself, as Bordas plans to enroll his child in school despite their young age. The second storyline, The World of Avis, begins in Orville number 3 as the ship discovers what appears to be a Union ship headed towards Krill space, but the reality is something far more complicated and potentially deadly. The Orville launches into comic book stores July 17th. So that's pretty damn cool. Lord knows there's not a lot of good comics out there, but I'm excited for this. And I'm excited because there's a writer on board from the show. Sometimes you get these licenses and they're just cash-ins, and it ends up being stuff that, gets completely ignored by the show, maybe and contradicted later by the show. You know what I mean? And you hate to see that kind of thing. That's right, folks. I'm cracking it open. I'm taking a sip. 30-year-old boomer intensifies. But this, if you got a writer from the actual show on board, this could be truly solidly canon. So that's kind of cool.
The hell?
What happened to your leg?
He amputated it while I was sleeping.
Ha ha. Got you.
What?
I have retaliated. That is my practical joke.
Tom Z sends a $2 super chat. Says nothing to say, but thank you for the super chats. And yes, super chats are enabled, folks. So thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So yeah, that's just a little fun story we got. Nothing big about that. But I don't know, might do a video review of it when it comes out. Forgive me, I'm snorting like DSP over here. So here we have another story, some more on the McDonald saga that I've dug up. When was this? This is March 9th. So yeah, this just came out. So this is off of a site, julieroars.com. Julie Roars is apparently a former employee at Harvest. I'm not entirely familiar with her, but she has apparently, according to this thing, a blog and a podcast and all sorts of other stuff. And hey, don't we all? So, right away we see a picture on this. I did not throw it in the chat. There you go, Luke. So right away we see a picture of James McDonald. Likes to do a lot of sport hunting. Here he shot a bear. Let's go off on a side note on the sport hunting thing. I kind of find it contemptible, if I'm being honest with you folks. And I know this is probably a position that not a lot of people in my audience are going to share. Maybe. I don't know. I know not a lot of my friends and family share it. I find it contemptible. And I'm not a PETA faggot, like animals are on the same level as humans or any shit like that. Like, I eat meat, I'll wear fur and leather. I don't have any problem with that. Just last weekend, I had to kill a mouse in the kitchen, had to set the little mouse trap. And I got those old style ones where the bar comes down, snaps his neck. The kind you used to see in a Tom and Jerry cartoon or something like that, where you literally put the cheese in it. Some people say that's not humane, but then there's the same people that put like those glue traps where the poor animal like ends up ripping its legs off or something. That's horrifying. I'm just quick little bam, lights out, buddy. So no, I'm not like, I'm not a total fucking hippie about this shit, but I don't know. Like, I'm killing an animal for fun. I'm afraid I'm just not really seeing the appeal there, guys.
Maybe just his punchable face, though, but I wish he wouldn't look like such a jerk about it.
I mean, like that, like, look at that bear. That bear is cool. That bear was cool. Okay, it was off in the woods doing bear stuff, not hurting nobody. Okay, I wish that bear was still alive and not James McDonald. Although that has a lot more to do with everything else about James McDonald than this particular hunting incident. But yeah, that the bear was cool. The world was a cooler place for having a big old brown bear in it. It's a shittier place for having James McDonald in it. I don't get like oh, look, I shot this lion. And look, it's a complicated issue. I understand that sport hunting, while I find it very contemptible, and I think it is a contemptible thing to like to do, look, it does chop down deer populations, keeps them out of control. And I realize a lot of deer hunters aren't purely sport. They do eat it. That's a different thing entirely. And I also realize that there's sort of this element of, there's an old saying that when there's more chicken hawks, there's less chickens. But when there's more people, there's more chickens, even though both people and chicken hawks eat chickens. You know what I'm saying? So I actually feel like a lot of like in Africa and shit, where like, you know, the tiger is near extinction or something like that. Actual having like reservations where those things could be hunted for sport would probably do up a lot to shore their numbers up.
It sure does.
As contemptible as I find that, like if you want to shoot a tiger for fun, I think you're an asshole. Because tigers are cool. Okay? Leave it alone.
I mean, unless he's going to post it on the wall to show they shot it, I don't really see the appeal.
Even then, I think, and look, I don't know. I don't even find the sport hunting aspect of it like, oh, it's the sport of it. Really, it's the sport of it. You went on a safari where you sat in a Jeep and shot this animal from half a mile away with a high-powered rifle and scope or something like that. You know, oh, wow, that was sporting. No, if James McDonald had ran into that bear's cave with a machete with his shirt off and taken it out that way, I guess that would have been sporting. But I bet you this asshole was in no danger at any point in this excursion.
Oh, sorry I had to plug you, Mr. Duck, but I'm a sportsman. A great, great sportsman.
A great sportsman, eh?
So yeah, I'm sorry. You know, a lot of people can say, "Oh, you're being a big softy," but whatever. Now I know James McDonald, as I've said here before, is the asshole who thinks wolves are demons. You know, who thinks wolves are inherently evil. So whatever, fuck him. So right away, just seeing this picture, I want to kick him in the balls. Like, wait, oh, I shot this bear. Well, aren't you a big fucking man? I'm sorry. I know I sound like a faggot leftist when I go on about this shit, but I like animals. Animals are cool. Okay? If I kill an animal, it's because it's a threat to me or I need to eat it. All right? Even that little mouse, you could say, well, that mouse wasn't a threat to you last weekend. The hell it wasn't. Look, mice are cute and adorable, and I would love for that mouse to have lived its happy little mouse life in a field somewhere. Okay? But I can't have them in my home destroying my property and spreading disease and filth. You know, and trust me, if I could snap my fingers and have caught him, if I could have feasibly caught him alive and you know, taken him across the street to the field or something, maybe I'd have done that. But, you know, he was in my kitchen. Sorry, buddy, you chose the wrong kitchen. You had to go. All right. I threw him on the I actually threw him in the burn barrel where I burn a lot of like paper trash in the burn barrel, you know, that I got up back. So I gave him a little Viking funeral. Godspeed, little mouse, you know. But I don't see the appeal of killing an animal for fun. I just don't see it, guys. No. Great White Rabbit sends $1.99, says, how was your birthday? Well, technically my birthday's tomorrow, so we'll see. But pretty good birthday weekend so far. I've enjoyed it. Let's see. The past couple of years, my dad has gotten me a gift of renewing my satellite radio in my car. But I actually took care of that last month. I was okay with that. So he kind of paid me back for it. But I think I kind of set that I kind of decided to set that money aside, and I'm gonna try and save up and try and get a Virtual Boy. I've wanted a Virtual Boy for so long, and I think I'm gonna try and squirrel away the money for that. And I know what's gonna happen. I know it's gonna be like, I'm gonna have most of it squirreled away, and life's gonna come and give you some kick in the pants. And I'm gonna have to dip into that money. That's the way it is. But I'd love to get a Virtual Boy at some point. Anyways, good birthday weekend so far. Tom Bombadil sends $24.99. Thank you very much, and says, "Happy birthday, King." No, thank you. That's very generous of you. Anyways, getting back to it. So, and we haven't even touched on this article yet. Okay. Like I said, right away I see the picture, and I'm like, "Fuck you, James." Look at that. He shot that bear. That bear was just out in the fucking woods doing bear stuff. Minding its own business. Not hurting nobody, which is more than can be said for James. And this asshole shot it because he thought it was fun. And you know what else? Sorry, I can't get off this topic, guys. You know what else drives me nuts about it? These same self-righteous evangelical up their own ass preachers are the same guys that would say that I'm bad for watching horror movies or playing Grand Theft Auto. I actually had an exchange, and it's somebody I know, and I love him to death. I love him to death, but he does a lot of sport hunting. It's a guy I know from my former church. Love the guy basically like he's family. I just don't see what he's getting out of it. But, he was over my place. We're all going to have dinner. He was over, and, he was over with the wife and kids and stuff. We're going to have a big dinner. And I'm just sort of sitting there. At the time I was playing my little Game Boy Advance that I just picked up Gargoyle's Quest. This was a couple years ago. I just found a good copy of Gargoyle's Quest and I was playing it. He's sort of looking over my shoulder and he's like, "Are all these games about fighting and killing things and, that sort of thing?" And he sort of had a little bit of judgmental tone to him. I just sort of looked up and I was like, "Don't you kill things for fun? Like actual living things? Like these are ones and zeros. You understand that? None of this is real." Yeah, I'm sorry. I get off on a tangent. Well, I like to sport hunt. Well, you kind of seem like an asshole to me then. I'm sorry. I know that's not the most popular opinion here on the right. I'm sorry. And I don't even lump all the deer hunters in there because I know a lot of people like to eat deer. That's different. You hunt it for food. That's different, okay? I actually think venison is terrible. I can't stand venison. But if you can show me where the wild chickens and cows are that I can hunt, maybe I'd be interested in some hunting for food. But yeah, I don't like venison at all. But if you do and you're hunting for food, more power to you. That's different, Like I said, we haven't even gotten to this article yet, and I just can't help but go on a tangent. On this. And that's the other thing, by the way. Deer is different. Like shooting a deer is different because deers are all over the place, okay? I doubt the brown bear numbers are that high. All right. Anyways, let's get to the actual meat of this article because I keep getting distracted. So the article is former Harvest employee says, former Harvest employees say James McDonald lived large on the church's dime. The article says, posted in Church Issues Evangelicalism by Julie Roars. Oh, I guess that's in 2015. James McDonald went on a worldwide missions trip that was so stressful. He needed a safari in South Africa to help him recover from it all. At least that's what McDonald, the recently fired founder of Harvest Bible Chapel, claimed to justify the church paying for the safari for him and two others, according to his bodyguards at the time, Jacob Ross. But that's not all. In a letter Ross submitted to Harvest leadership in late January and was recently leaked to me, Ross writes that McDonald wasn't satisfied with the initial budget of $5,000 for the safari. James decided he wanted to shoot a high-value animal, Ross writes, a sable to be specific, which costs $15,000 to $20,000 to shoot. I don't know. How much does it cost to be allowed to hunt James? I'm asking for a friend, of course. Pardon me. A little bit of that went down the wrong pipe there. Oh. So, Ross writes that McDonald's called Fred Adams, former Harvest CFO, and got him to wire additional money from the church to the safari company. Quote, citing his stress from the trip and not needing a need for a relaxing vacation, doing something he enjoyed, unquote. Yes, he enjoyed shooting animals for the fun of it. I'm sorry, I try not to get off on that tangent again.
It's hard not to.
I'm sorry, guys. I just don't see the appeal. I know some of you are probably big fans of it. I don't get it. Ross also writes that on the same missions trip, Harvest paid for a 3 to 4 day stay at a resort in the Dominican Republic for McDonald. Ross and Harvest executive pastor Jeff Donaldson, both Donaldson and Ross, had also joined McDonald on the safari. Not only did Harvest pay for the 3 men, Ross wrote, the church also paid for their wives to fly out to join them. Again, James justified the expense as the result of the extreme stress he was under on the trip. Good Lord. These are just 2 of the numerous incidents in Ross's letter showing that McDonald lived large on the church's dime. Plus, Ross is not the only former Harvest employee alleging these things. A letter by another former employee alleges that while Harvest was imposing, quote, austerity measures, unquote, like removing the coffee and water dispensers, McDonald was remodeling his office for $150,000 and authorizing a $40,000 fence for a whitetail trophy deer herd at Camp Harvest.
Huh.
So I just want to reiterate that the church, the Harvest Bible Main Church, stopped giving out free coffee and water to the people attending the church. Meanwhile, James McDonald pisses away nearly $200,000 on bullshit. On bullshit. These expenditures were in addition to McDonald's salary, which the church continues to keep private. Again, this is current. This article is today. However, Dave Corning, a founding elder who chaired the elder board for 21 years, told me that in 2009, McDonald was making a combined $550,000 from both the church and Walk in the Word, the McDonald's broadcast ministry. $550,000, I assume, a year. I'm just curious, folks. Indulge me for a moment here. What is the top tax rate in the United States? I believe it's 32%, something like that, 35. Let me look that up real quick. I want to do a little bit of math. Top U.S. tax rate. 39. Okay, so 37. Let's say, you know what? Let's say that McDonald gets totally raped by the tax man because he's in Illinois. Let's say he gets totally raped by the tax man here. Hang on. And we're gonna times this by 0.55. So James McDonald was probably making about $300,000 a year after taxes. And that's if he is getting raped by the tax man. And again, I'm talking, raped by federal, state, and local taxes. And I'm sure being a preacher, I'm sure he had write-offs off the ass. Okay. But let's assume he was just getting absolutely raped by the tax man. All right. That man was pocketing, going directly into his bank account a year, roughly $300,000. And let's just continue to do some math here, because again, I'm curious for my own sake. Because a lot of us, we're living paycheck to paycheck, aren't we? So let's just divide that 300,000 by 52. Okay, so James McDonald is pocketing after taxes I got 5,769 and then a whole bunch of numbers after the decimal. Let's just round it down and say this man is pocketing $5,700 a week.
A week.
And that's after the tax man comes. That's after big old pimp Uncle Sam says, "You got my money, bitch." That's nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, it's if there is anyone in his church who suffers from bankruptcy, and I'm sure there is, that would be a disgrace. I mean,
And again, I'm
kind of income.
probably estimating this pretty lowly because I am assuming this man is getting absolute. I don't believe that I don't think he was in the absolute top tax bracket. I would have to look that up. I think you have to be making a damn good amount of money a year. I think you probably have to be over $1 million a year, at least, I would think. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm assuming he's absolutely getting raped by the tax man to come up with these numbers, which he probably is not. So at a minimum, he is pocketing 50. And again, I'm rounding down constantly here, folks, too. $5,700 a week. How much are you pocketing a week? I bet it ain't that. And if it is, if you are pocketing that a week, can I humbly suggest you check out my Patreon and spread a little? Because damn, dude. Let's get back to the article. Sorry, folks. So going on tangents at the ass here, but 6 devastating letters sent from elders, but suppressed. Ross's letter was one of 6 by former and present staff that was presented to Harvest elders about 5 weeks ago, according to Elder Dan George and former Elder Mike Dunwoody. These letters are devastating, documenting scores of incidents where McDonald mocked, threatened, and belittled staff, contractors, and other Christian leaders, lied and reneged on promises, raged at those around him, and prospered financially at the church's expense. I reached out to the church and McDonald for comment about these letters, but they did not respond. I have read all 6 letters, though only 5 were given to me to publish. I'm releasing information today from 2 of them, which relates to the finances. Ross's letter and a letter by Dean Butters. What is that? Butters, yes. For a second, I thought it said Butlers. Dean Butters, former executive director of business operations at Harvest. Both Ross and Butters authenticated their letters with me, but declined to comment due to non-disclosure agreements. Dunwoody and George said these 6 letters were key in the board's decision to fire McDonald. The final straw was McDonald's vile recorded comments that were aired on. By the way, again, folks, in case you haven't been keeping up with this story, James McDonald's recorded comments were he was on a hot mic screaming about how somebody at Christianity Today had done a podcast critical of him, and he's like, again, the exact wording escapes me, but basically he said, can we figure out a way to get child porn put on his computer? Yeah. But Dunwoody and George added that the full board almost didn't get to see the letters. They said most of the letters initially were sent to campus pastor Greg Bradshaw, who had been asked by the board to review the letters with 3 other elders. Dunwoody and George said when the elder board met on February 5th, Harvest Assistant Senior Pastor Rick Donald, who was on the board at the time but has since stepped down, adamantly opposed releasing the letters, so they were withheld. I reached out to Donald for comment, but he did not respond. You know, I get comments daily on those old videos on the McDonald's subject, because obviously people are searching for it and McDonald's in the title. And every once in a while I get idiots that are defending this guy. And shame on those people.
Here it is.
James McDonald had a cult.
Tabloid. He planned to put child porn on Harold's computer.
There you go. I couldn't believe it. That was so, like, if he'd have been on a hot mic saying like, I want to have him killed, can somebody hire me a hitman? I'd be less shocked. Like, implied in that statement is that James McDonald either A, knows where to find child pornography, or B, is in right now possession of child pornography. I don't know. I know McDonald did a lot of these cross-denominational conferences with other Christian groups and all. Maybe he's got a good Catholic priest buddy that can hook him up. I'm not sure where he's got the hookup, but I can honestly say I don't know where to find child pornography. I used to have a really, really, really bad pornography habit, like well over a decade ago. I mean, like 06, 7, 8, maybe. You know, I'd almost quit it, but then I finally got high-speed internet and had access to videos easily, and that sort of was some gasoline on that fire. I never even stumbled on child pornography in all that time. I wouldn't know where to get it. If I had accidentally stumbled on it, I would have like ripped the Wi-Fi router out of the wall and burned my laptop. You know, it had some priests and pastors over to exorcise any demons out of my home.
I mean, how exactly would he go about looking up child pornography? Because, I mean, people should be too scared to look up child pornography considering that everything is monitored.
I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't even know where the fuck to find it. No. Now, part of that's because I'm a retard who barely knows how to use the internet. But seriously.
But just the idea of looking up makes me want to go, ugh.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh, that's the other thing I guess we could talk about. Somebody on Discord sent me a blog in which this one of these virtuous pedophiles is going on about being a virtuous pedophile. And like he only sent me a screen cap because he said somebody said it to him, and he's like, I'm like afraid to like even pass links around of this. I was like, I don't want it popping up in my history kind of thing. But maybe we'll be brave tonight and read that. But let's continue with this. So on February 6th, George said he and several elders met with McDonald at Harvest's Elgin campus. And at the meeting, George said McDonald argued that the letter should go to Crossroads Resolution Group, the company Harvest had hired to manage their, quote, reconciliation process, unquote, with aggrieved parties. Man, when you have that many critics, you got to hire a company to deal with your reconciliation processes. I mean, I realize Harvest was a big institution, and law averages says you're bound to have problems when you're that big, but damn, dude.
I mean, the only thing comparable would be like the defense arm of the Scientology church.
George said Donald and Elder Steve Hudson, who chaired the Elder Executive Committee before it was dissolved, argued strongly in favor of McDonald's suggestions. Big shock there. I just making sure I'm not missing any super chats here real quick. And looks like we got a super chat from Napoleon saying, Hail Boba, Slayer of Penguins, Master of Catholics. Well, thank you for the $2 super chat. Somebody says pornography habit. What the fuck is that? Watching porn. Yes, I was watching a lot of porn a while back. Somebody says Bechtloff's room probably lit up with a black light. Yes. Back in the day it did. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching a considerable amount of pornography. Although honestly, the rabbit holes I've seen some people go down, I probably wasn't that bad compared to some people, but I was bad enough that I had to pull myself back and say, whoa, what am I doing? What am I doing here? This is not good for me. Let's see. Where was I here? Okay. However, George said they were able to attain all the letters independently soon after that meeting. He then distributed the letters to other elders, the last of them going to elders on February 12th, the same day McDonald was fired. Let's just recap. You know, previously on the Harvest Bible saga here, there were pastors that were so deep in this guy's pocket, elders, I'm sorry. They were so deep in this asshole's pocket that they were trying to prevent the other elders from seeing this, from seeing these letters so they could vote on the issue.
Oh, brother.
That's just what was going on there, folks. The more the deeper you dig at Harvest Bible, the more shockingly corrupt it is. Like, as of right now, with levels of corruption, they're basically touching little boys is the only thing that's separating them from the Catholic Church's level of corruption at this point. All right. Yeah. And I don't know. This is still unfolding, so who the fuck knows what's coming out, but that's it. That's the only thing separating them. This is shocking levels of corruption. This is mafia level shit here. And again, we were talking about, you know, putting child porn on someone's computer. So who the hell knows what's coming out?
Oh, here's a good old sound clip from the old days.
Like a preacher needs pain, like a needle needs a vein, guys need porn.
I'm not familiar with that person.
What was his name again? I know it's in here listing somewhere.
David something, I think. More evidence McDonald spent church's money for lavish lifestyles. Like Ross, Butter's letter documents numerous incidents where McDonald spent the church's money to support his lavish lifestyle. And apparently the McDonald African safari was not an isolated incident. Butters writes that McDonald, quote, led various hunting trips throughout the U.S. and Africa for his friends and couched them as a business expense. Butters also said that it's a business expense. You take your buddies fucking hunting on another continent. It's like, that's a business expense. That's a business expense. What? I mean, I know we can all play games with business expenses when you have your own business kind of thing. I get it, but come on, man. This is the church. All right. This isn't like, what was that? I remember there's a gaming channel I like, Stop Skeletons from Fighting. And back when I was on Twitter, the guy from that channel had posted a picture of some goofy little figurine of some gaming character he had bought. I don't even remember what it was. And I remember tweeting at him, I was like, you know, what's really cool about your job is you get to write that off as a tax write-off because you can just, you know, put it in the background in your videos. I'm building my set for my show. You know what I mean? And he was just like, I never thought of that. Like, so I'm sure his taxes that year, he was like, yeah, look at it. These toys I bought were business expenses. Uncle Sam, I needed that Mega Man action figure for my set. Okay, everybody does a little bit of that, and that's fine. Okay, but there's a little bit of difference between that and this. Okay, and especially when you're doing a church. Come on, man. Ugh. I tell you, a crooked preacher is worse than an honest whore. Butters also said that when McDonald moved from his Inverness home to his Elgin home, the church paid $50,000 to move and store his personal possessions. $50,000. Moving can be pretty pricey, but $50,000 in a church. You know, generally one of the cool things about belonging to a church is you got a bunch of people that'll help you move. And, you know, I think the last time I had to move, you know, I spent a little bit of money to get some professional movers to move some furniture. That was it. The rest of it, I had buddies, you know, and I bought a bunch of pizzas from Little Caesars to feed them for help, as thank you for helping me. Isn't that how a church is supposed to go? Not out of the church's expense comes $50,000 to move all the bear skulls that you've collected, McDonald? $50,000 to move and store his personal possessions. Butters also added that McDonald also donated a broken hot tub to the church that cost more to fix than to replace. What a shitbag. What a shitbag. And you know he wrote that off, too. You know he wrote that off on his taxes. What a shithead.
$1 million.
What a shithead. That's just comically fucking shitty. Yet, according to Butters, McDonald, he did write it off. According to Butters, McDonald took an $8,000 tax write-off for the donation. What a shitbag. Wow. Oh, buddy. That is, that's some top shelf shitbaggery right there. Oh.
Well, that's me. Yeah.
Everyone knows it's Butters. Butters' letter also reveals that McDonald and other executives at Harvest were given bonuses when the church hit certain revenue targets. He added that one year, someone manipulated the books, attributing income from Camp Harvest to the general fund so the church's executives would qualify for bonuses. Butters also writes that McDonald, and here we got a bullet point, bought more than $500 in cigars with church funds, tipped a waitress $400 with church funds. Oh, this if he's tipping a waitress that much, I think there's some girls in this guy's past, or recent past, I should say. Spent more than $50,000 of church money on his campsite the first year of Act Like Men Palooza. I think we should look into that a little. Let's bookmark this for a little bit later.
What's it called again? Act
Like Men Palooza, and we have a trailer for it that we'll bring up a little later. Demanded that fiber optic cable be installed at Camp Harvest so the internet service would be faster, costing $20,000 per month on a 3-year contract. $20,000 per month so that he could have high-speed internet while he shoots deers. Demanded that the church pay to repair his truck after he scraped and dented it on one of the columns in the Elgin Church parking garage, blaming security for setting the cones up wrong. Of course, it was everyone else's fault, wasn't it? fucking piece of shit, demanded that his office be remodeled in 2013 for about $150,000, while all senior and middle management and their direct reports took a 10% pay cut. Remember when Iwata at Nintendo took a pay cut when the Wii U wasn't doing so well? That's a leader. Remember when James McDonald gave his employees a pay cut while he spent $150,000 to make his office prettier? That's not a leader.
You scratched my car!
Where?
Right there!
Oh, there. I was already there.
The church also had removed coffee. They already covered this. Coffee water or employees as austerity measures. I thought it was for the people attending church. I guess it was for employees due to low giving. Ross also writes about the remodel, noting that many expenses exceeded reasonable, including Ross's custom-built in hardwood desk that cost several $1,000s. James McDonald also, during the same time period, the church bought fencing for the new deer herd at Camp Harvest for over $40,000. Yeah, they covered it. Harvest's black budget and executive checkbook. And by the way, we are not like halfway down this page. Holy shit. This is a lot. There's a lot more than this I thought there'd be. It's not clear how the church justified paying for McDonald's lavish personal expenses or how these expenses were budgeted. I sent emails this week to the elder board as well as Harvest CFO Jeff Sharda, but no one responded. However, as I reported earlier in World Magazine, two former Harvest executives said that the church hid about 20% of its budget from all but top church staffers and the executive committee. Wow. What are you, the fucking Pentagon? Both said this so-called black budget was controlled by Fred Adams. Watching mybudgetgoblack.com. Also this week, Bill Sperling, a former member of the EC and current elder and church treasurer, gives some insight to McDonald's spending at a question and answer meeting. According to Sperling, the church maintained, quote, executive checkbook that amounted to 1% of the annual income of the church, about $250,000. Sperling admitted that the, quote, checkbook was, quote, too liberal and, quote, not dotting I's and crossing T's. That's putting it mildly. And I don't buy for a minute that's all the money James McDonald could play around with. He added that members of the former executive committee knew about this checkbook as well as the auditors. Look, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to give the preacher, an executive checkbook, as it were, that, a little petty cash fund that he can, use as needed for that's different. But there's no, first of all, $250,000. I don't know. What is that? A month, a year? I don't know. If it's a year, it's too much. And I don't buy for a minute that that's all the money James was able to play around with. 4 of the 5 members of the former executive committee remain on Harvest's elder board. They are Bill Sperling, Steve Hudson, Jeff Smith, and Sam Boris. Former EC member Ron Dutzman resigned in February. Sperling's account seems consistent with what Ross wrote in his letter. Ross said McDonald had a church credit card, quote, that was given outside of normal church protocol and set up directly through Fred Adams. Ross said he and McDonald's former assistant, Shakita Brown, were also issued credit cards tied to that account. Ross said he was instructed to put, quoting, anything related to James on James's card at the end of each month. Man, can you imagine being this idiot's fucking secretary? Like, nobody is keeping track of shit. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're not take lunch at Outback every day on the credit card, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna care. I mean,
Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption had less to worry about.
Yeah, you just. I bet until such time as he flips out on you with his temper, I bet working for James McDonald as his assistant is a sweet gig. It's probably, you show up late, you take a long lunch, you go home early. buy some dumb shit on the company credit card once a week. Nobody cares. Nobody knows anything. I mean, it's basically small level what James was doing. Ross said that he was instructed to put anything related to James on the credit card. At the end of each month, Ross said he was given the card statements directly to Adams with descriptions of each charge. I doubt that. Ross said these monthly charges were, quote, regularly in excess of $10,000 and occasionally, quote, as high as $20,000 to over $30,000. So James and I guess his secretary and it sounded like one other idiot are spending between $10,000 and $30,000 a month on bullshit, on nothing. You know what I mean? On just dinners and whatever else, whatever else James likes to buy. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's what Christianity is all about.
Nice way, yeah. Yeah, wait. Jesus told me to take up my cross, and I guess that means I get a sweet gig where I get to buy retro video games on the kind of churches.
He told you to take up your cross, sell it at a profit, and use the profit to make an investment and hoard the profits for yourself and screw the little man.
Jesus told me to use the church's credit card to buy myself a Virtual Boy. Well, all right, Lord, if you insist. Far be it for me to argue. He works in mysterious ways. Oh, Lordy. Ross said in 2015, McDonald instructed him to book a vacation at a resort in Naples, Florida, for McDonald and his wife, Kathy, and to charge it to his church-issued credit card. If McDonald was dicking around just with the funds from Walking the Word, it wouldn't be so bad. Because it's still ministry and all, but it's also, that's his side project, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be as upsetting, because what does Walking the Word have to do other than, be recordings of his material, put them out there, as long as they're covering expenses, their ministry is that material. You know what I mean? But a church is supposed to be taking care of its congregation and reaching out to the community and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So to be stealing all, let's call it what it is, stealing. Okay. Maybe it's legally not stealing, but it's stealing. Okay. To be stealing this money from the church, this is all kinds of shitty.
Hey, Sarge, look at this. What? I found these two accounting books. This one says, show to the IRS. And what's the other one say? Never. Show to the IRS.
I tell you what, man, this guy's giving Joel Osteen a run for his money.
At least Joel Osteen doesn't have any scandals attached to him, as far as we know.
Yeah, at least as far as I know, Osteen never wanted to put child porn on someone's computer. Just running the basic hustle don't seem so bad compared to that. Okay, so yeah, taking his wife on vacation. Ross said McDonald authorized him to spend, quote, whatever was necessary, unquote. Ross added, McDonald told me he'd call Fred and his friends on the elder board to justify the expense as necessary due to the tough year he had and the toll it took on him. Ross said the vacation cost more than $20,000. I'm amazed it was that cheap, given that this idiot can spend $20,000 on just miscellaneous bullshit in a month. I'm surprised a vacation to Florida was only $20,000.
I did not see that coming, and frankly, I'm out of Mein Kampf for zone.
According to Rusty Leonard of the watch group Ministry Watch, using church funds for personal use normally qualifies as embezzlement. Yeah, you think? However, if McDonald's spending was approved by the executive committee, it's not legally embezzlement because the board gave McDonald the cover he needed to take the money. A lot of this is probably not illegal. some of it's really getting into the borderline, and some of it indeed may be, because the IRS, they don't fuck around. But a lot of this is probably not embezzlement in the legal sense.
No, it's probably not, but it's just so
that said, though,
pastor.
Yeah. That said, though, do you think when somebody throws their 10% of their weekly check, or they pull, if they're sitting in a Harvest Bible Church, or they pull a $5 bill out of their pocket because maybe that's the only cash they had on them, or whatever, they throw a $5 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill, $1. If they throw a penny in there because that was just all they had in their pocket, whatever they throw into the collection plate, do you think they were throwing that in there so James McDonald could spend $10,000 a month on random bullshit, random miscellaneous bullshit? Do you think that's why they gave their money, whatever that amount of money was? Or do you think they gave that money because they believed that walking the word was advancing the Lord's work? Now, yeah, when I give money to a church, okay, yeah, I want the preacher to be taken care of. You know what I mean? Like, I like to get what's Pastor Awareness Month? Isn't that October? Or Pastor Appreciation Month? That's October, isn't it? Whatever. But I usually like to give the pastor a gift card to Outback or something. Like, go take the wife out, something nice, Because usually I'm in churches where it doesn't seem like the pastor is, skimming money off the top like an asshole. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the second Sunday of October, Pastor Appreciation Day.
So there's a joke in Family Guy where and they go to Catholic church in there, but on the way out, Peter slips $100 bill into the priest's front pocket and says, "Nice talking, Padre. By the way, something nice," which is funny because it's a Catholic priest, But I mean, sometimes you gotta take care of your pastor a little bit. I know there's a lot of small churches where the pastors don't get taken care of enough. It seems like there's the two extremes in Protestant circles. You know what I mean? The pastor is either he's either working himself to the bone, or he's James McDonald or Joel Osteen. You know what I mean? As is always the difficult case in life, hitting that sweet spot and reasonable sweet spot in the middle is always kind of difficult. But if you have a hardworking pastor, take care of him. Okay? Your pastor does deserve, a nice night out with his wife once in a while, and that's fine. I don't begrudge anybody that. Okay? I'm not saying James McDonald needed to take a vow of poverty or something like that. Okay? I'm not even saying if his church had a very, very high budget that he didn't deserve a decent salary and live in a night. That's not what I'm saying here. But come on.
I mean,
I think we can all look at this and realize, this is ridiculous.
At the very least, you could have some sort of charities where you can make sure every single person in his congregation doesn't have financial difficulties.
Yeah. And again, I don't begrudge him making money from walking the word. You know what I mean? That's his side thing. Okay. That's making money off of his talent of giving good sermons. You know what I mean? I don't begrudge him that at all. Okay. No, I don't begrudge him that at all. But come on, man. It's your church, all right?
He'd be more useful if he preached like this.
Yo, God is good, huh? And he expects us to be good. And if you're not, he's gonna come down and bust your freaking skull. Amen.
Well, that kind of is a little how he preached. There really was no grace in his version of Christianity. He was insanely legalistic, which is ironic. Isn't it ironic that the legalistic guys always turn out to be the shitbags? The real shitbags. Isn't that something?
The Bible never. I think the Bible mentions something about that. Obvious hypocrisy.
It seems to be there. It seems like there was a group of religious leaders that Christ ran afoul with a couple of times. Fit that description. Well, all right. So, let's see. Where were we here? Oh yes, whether or not it was embezzlement. However, Leonard said that he suspected the IRS might view some of McDonald's expenditures as income. So if McDonald didn't pay taxes on that income, it could be considered tax evasion. Oh man, if McDonald gets bent over and screwed by the long dick of the law, that McDonald owes taxes. Yeah. If he gets the old thought audit, that's gonna be delightful. Ross and Butters break silence due to hope for change. Oh boy. Ross said he left his position after continued berating by McDonald, calling him, quote, stupid, quote, incompetent, and, quote, worthless. Also, quote, of no use to him. That all proved too much. Ross said he remained silent until now because of a mixture of fear and desire to, quote, not harm my church, unquote. A lot of evil men in the church have taken advantage of people's desire to not harm the church. He said he finally broke his silence because he believed the vast majority of staff, elders, and members of Harvest are, quote, not privy to many of the situations, quote, he highlighted in his letter. Ross added, those who are seeking to make the correct decision regarding the future of Harvest Bible simply can't, without correct information. Similarly, Butters writes that he left the church because of his, quote, ability to continue believing the best about the leaders had diminished. Gee, you think? He added that, quote, things I was seeing with my eyes, hearing with my ears, and feeling with my soul became more convincing than the narrative that was continually being spun. Butters said he wrote his letter, quote, with hope that it will prevent others from being spiritually manipulated and brutalized by James McDonald and others at Harvest Bible Chapel who carry out his commands. And that is the extent of that. Wow, that was a fun adventure. Oh, man. Yeah, fuck this guy. Like, oh.
That's all, folks.
That is a lot of money to be skimming off the top there. Let's watch. You know, we don't normally do videos here, but I think this is absolute fair use. I will fight this. Go ahead and play this, Luke.
What are we playing?
We're gonna watch the Act Like Men Palooza 2018 recap from Harvest Bible Chapel. Let me just go ahead and give that a dislike. Right, preemptively there. So yeah, let's fire this up. I want to know what their Act Like Men Palooza was like.
Be watchful. Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. And let that be on our lips this weekend as we seek to love one another as brothers.
There's something very, very powerful that happens when men are together. The power of biblical brotherhood. Great things happen when men are for one another what God has called them to be.
Every man listening here is desperately in need of what brothers, real brothers, actually give.
Guys, let me hear how fired up you are.
That's enough. Lame, but I'm not gonna. I'm not. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. I mean, it's a bit cringe, but
mud fights.
But yeah, I do. Yes, there is there is not enough masculinity in the church, but I don't necessarily know if this is Yeah, I noticed this with the church, this is evangelicalism in particular. It's either the paper alpha shit or it's the effeminate weasel. You know, there isn't a lot of true masculinity in the church, and I don't necessarily have solutions for that, but I don't necessarily know that this goofiness is the way to go about it.
Honestly, when the thing played out, I thought it was, considering our media coverage, I always started to think it was something from the alt-right or something Jack Donovan would make.
Somebody in the chat says, is this McDonald's version of a free folk moot?
That's it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What the hell? I was just about to bring something else up, and then I brain farted and lost what I was going to bring up here.
Masculinity in the church?
Yeah, what's going on that? Somebody says, oh, God, that music is so gay. Well, yeah. Yeah, oh, I remember. Okay, so this was a few years ago, probably close to a decade. This was when the church that I had gone to for a while, my first real church home, it had split off from another church that I was kind of going to, because that church believed that when it grew to a certain size, it should plant a new church somewhere else. It shouldn't just keep getting bloated and huge. You know what I mean? You know, grow like amoeba is, you know, that kind of thing, instead of grow like the blob. And James McDonald came to speak, and I was barely aware of him, but my dad tells this story, and my dad was there. So what is the term? I'm trying to think of the fomented baby. Okay, so there was some, I guess there was a bunch of people, they called them like formaldehyde babies, I guess. Back in like the 50s, they were born. Apparently it was some drug that was causing birth defects in people. And I mean, people were born like with basically flippers instead of hands. I mean, just horrible, physically debilitating birth defects. All right. And the reason I know this is there was somebody who suffered from that around my father's age, going to at the time New Song Lancaster. Again, New Song was starting to cozy up to Harvest a bit at this point, but hadn't totally bought in. Anyways, so there's this guy who is going to church, and I mean, he's in like a wheelchair or something. You know, he's deformed. You know, basically, you know, if you go to shake this man's hand, he's going to hand you a flipper, essentially. Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's similar to what it was. But I mean, mentally, the guy was all there. He had a very godly attitude. I never got to meet the guy, but I heard about him through several people. By all accounts, he's a stand-up guy. But anyways, James McDonald made a very big point of going up and like giving this guy a hug and shaking his hand and all this other shit, right? And my dad heard him say something as he walked away that, as my dad put it, he says, I took this a little bit more charitably at the time, but looking back, now I don't. James McDonald said to his aide, make sure I always get to meet those kind of people. Now, the charitable way to interpret that would be like, you know, I want to be kind to someone that's obviously dealing with an unfortunate situation in their life. You know what I mean? The uncharitable way to look at that, which I think is probably the more accurate one, given what we know of him, is I want to use these people as props whenever I get the chance. I want to use them as photo ops. But very specifically, my dad and a buddy of his even reiterated this story, you know, that his wording was exactly, again, I'm getting this secondhand, but getting it from two sources here. Make sure I always meet those kind. To his aide. So, yeah.
Quite a few women senators, you know.
Oh, me too. I checked.
You're a sharp one. Well, how about a few pictures?
So yeah, that's James McDonald for you. I'm gonna go through the chat, take a look, see if we got anything.
Plays in the sticks.
Oh, isn't that nice? Now there is a politician chair.
If I ever vote, that'll be for him.
So he says, don't get a Virtual Boy, get a Nintendo Labo VR. If they don't recycle the Virtual Boy games for that system, Nintendo isn't even trying. I don't understand why Nintendo didn't put its first-party Virtual Boy systems on a 3DSe console. I mean, let's be real. Most of the Virtual Boys they weren't virtual reality per se. They were just a 3D effect. They were just games that had a 3D effect to them. They would have all translated fine to the 3DSe shop. Let's see. NC Clark says, Paul's up, don't shoot. Somebody says, Bear Lives Matter. Bechtloff should go on Luke Ford. I wouldn't mind going on Luke Ford. I mean, I don't know that, who the hell am I? I don't know if he'd have me on, but somebody says, anyone want to see if Arini, Furberger, or Hadron want to come on and wish Bechtloff a happy birthday? I believe they would probably turn down that. NC Clark says, hold up, he has a bodyguard. Yes, I imagine James McDonald. Well, the amount of people he's pissed off over the years. So he said, not satisfied with $5,000, man. No wonder this guy. No wonder people don't like giving to churches. This McDonald guy's a nutcase. Apparently, you can get a permit to hunt terrorists. I've seen them on some cars. Hunting James McDonald cost many years in jail. Sadly. Let's see. 550G. What the fuck? Somebody says top tax rate 39%. Yeah, like I said, if he's getting raped, let's say he's getting raped by a tax man and he's only keeping about half of that. We're still looking at some staggering amounts of money here. And again, that's assuming he isn't playing all kinds of write-off games, which, according to that article, when you donate a broken hot tub for $8,000 credit, yeah, I'd say you're playing some write-off games.
Don't want my name in the Hall of Fame. Just want a big fat pile of money.
Well, I think James wants both. Let's see. Just going to the chat a little bit there. Yep. Somebody says they call him Flipper faster than lightning. Yes, indeed. So yeah, there's the James McDonald saga continuing. I mean, there's a little bit of other stuff to talk about this week. I don't know. I haven't really paid much attention to news. What's the guy Yang who's I guess he's running as a Democrat and he's promising $1,000 to everybody. The universal basic income. I mean, like Forney had a rant where he's like, I want to support Yang just to just to piss off the boomers. And I get being disappointed with Donald Trump, but I'm not supporting Yang. Come on. Universal basic income. What? Come on. That's obviously fucking stupid. All right. That obviously isn't going to fix anything. I mean, yeah, I'm disappointed in Trump, but it is amazing how much of the Wignats just never really supported Trump. Like they jumped ship from him the moment things went south. And I wish he'd be stronger on the border wall, and I wish he'd get get the online censorship under control. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, fuck Trump. Come on. If they give everybody $1,000, everything's going to go up in price is what's going to happen. Let's see. Somebody says, does Bechtloff know anything about comics creator Brian K. Vaughan? I mean, I've heard the name a lot. I know I've read stuff by him. Let me because that name is very familiar, and I know I've read stuff by him. Let me see what's going on with Brian K. Vaughan. Runaways, yeah, I remember reading Runaways. I did The Hood. I remember that at Marvel. Why the Last Man? I read a little bit of that. Saga. A buddy of mine loves that book, Saga. I never got into it, but my best friend actually is huge into that.
Just promise me you'll sell only to someone white. I'll be reasonable. I'll even settle for a Democrat.
Think of the amiibos you could get for $1,000 a month. Yeah, Zach the Bong Ripper. I mean, what about him? I you know, like I said, I've heard the name. I've read some of the stuff he's read, but is he made the news here recently? What's going on with him? Apparently, he's going to write a Gundam movie for Legendary. I will say I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff I've read by him, but yep, that's what Brian K. Vaughan is doing an adaptation for live action Mobile Suit Gundam. This could be the beginning of something incredible or a complete disaster. I really liked Runaways when it first came out. Now, granted, this was like 2003, and I guess there was some shit-lib stuff in it, but this was like the height of the Bush years, so it didn't seem that bad. Why the Last Man was pretty good. The Hood was a decent little Max series at Marvel. I would say that you probably could end up with something pretty good. So Napoleon sends $2 and says, unironically supporting Yang is onions to the max. Yeah, Mystique. I read that Mystique thing he did. Oh, he did The Oath. Oh, I love that Doctor Strange series. Oh, that was really cool. There's actually parts of that Doctor Strange series end up directly inspiring parts of the Doctor Strange movie. There's a part in that Doctor Strange series where he's been shot, and he's like, it's in the first issue even. He's been shot, and his astral form is helping a character called the Night Nurse perform surgery on him to like save his life. So he's guiding this nurse on doing surgery on himself with his astral form.
Oh, that was a cool scene in the movie.
Like, again, it's been a few years since I read that, but I seem to remember like the central plot there was like there was some sort of like magical MacGuffin that would cure all diseases or something that people were fighting over, and you know, and Doctor Strange like knew that if he released it into the world, it could potentially, you know, unbalance a ton of things, you know what I mean? But he was also like, you know, my oath as a doctor sort of demands I do it. So he was sort of like mystically bound by his oath. It was a decent little series, but like I said, it's been a few years since I read it, so I couldn't really tell you. But that one moment in it really struck out as a cool ass moment.
Yeah, the Hippocratic Oath, but with magic.
Because if you think about it, I mean, if you're a wizard, aren't you? You're much more bound to your oaths than a normal person, you know. Somebody says, does he kill off a lot of his great characters? I'm not sure. I haven't really read a lot of his creator-owned stuff. Like I said, Saga, I couldn't tell you about, except that a very close friend of mine absolutely loves that. He's the guy oh yeah, The Cure for Cancer. That's right. He's the guy. I'm probably remembering the plot of it all wrong, to be honest with you. I remember there was some sort of magical cure for shit and stuff, but like I said, that one scene in it, I remember very vividly, and I thought it was very cool that they sort of semi recreated it in the Doctor Strange movie. But anyways, like I said, a buddy of mine, he's the guy that I started doing that comic stand with years ago at the flea market. He read Saga like every month. He loved it.
Here it is, the surgery.
Yeah, he's his astral form helping her do surgery. Somebody's talking about StreamMe, saying apparently StreamMe was stealing proprietary code from another company and is now being sued. That's interesting.
Oh,
yeah, because StreamMe just went dark in a moment. But yeah, I will say, like, as for Brian, as for this writer, I've generally enjoyed the stuff I've read by him. So he was a Marvel Comics writer back when that meant something. Back pre-2012 days, back when a Marvel comic was still fun on the bun. So yeah, I could imagine him doing a really good stuff with Gundam. I know Warren Ellis did great stuff with Castlevania recently. So, well, like I said, a buddy of mine swears by Saga, and I don't really know the first thing about it. I think it's like aliens or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the first fucking thing about it.
Might be Greek mythology with the satyrs.
I think it's like an alien race that's like coexisting with our humans. I don't know. Like I said, couldn't tell you. But I just know he loved it. He loved that book. Because I remember, because him and I both weren't collecting comics anymore after we started doing the stand. So the comics we would buy, and read, we'd sort of sell back to our stand. You know what I mean? We'd put them back in the stock and take half of what we paid for it. You know what I mean? Kind of thing, or not even, depending on how good of a month we were having. You know what I mean? But just a little way to help pay for our hobby. And I just remember we had Saga issues out the ass because not a lot. It was this indie book. Not a lot of people knew about it. You know what I mean? But he swore by it. Let's see. All right. Well, shit. I'm just about out of stuff. I really wasn't a lot to talk about this week. I should say not a lot I was paying attention to news-wise, I guess. Sponsors. We got a sponsor this week. It's Steve's Jerky. So you should all get you some Steve's Jerky. Steve's Jerky is absolutely fantastic, and in my personal experience, it does help protect against the curses of witches and the warlocks. So get you some Steve's Jerky. And also down below, if you want to send a little birthday thing, we got the PayPal, Patreon, and Amazon wish list. And I got a few stuff off the Amazon wish list this week. I appreciate that, folks. I got Kid Icarus Uprising off the Amazon wish list. Which I played very briefly before, a couple years ago. I want to say when I first got my DS, but then I ended up I ended up selling it back for store credit. I'm not even sure why. I think I was just really trying to thin out games, or I was trying to really get some store credit to get another game or something. But I don't know. I'm gonna give it another shot. And what else did I get? Oh, and somebody got me a really cool Mega Man air freshener off the wish list. It's cool. It's got a design on both sides. Even the packaging was really nice. It's some sort of scent called Cool Rush, which smells like cheap perfume. I think my dad described it as a New Orleans cat house. Which I'm not sure why he knows what that smells like, and that's his business why he knows what that smells like. But nonetheless, it's a cool little air freshener. And Lord knows I need air fresheners in my car. That's why I threw it. I always need a good, decent air freshener in the car because I drive by Amish farms. But yeah, I got a couple of things off there and a couple of books. Donovan, he got me the Philokalia, which I want to read. The collection of writings of the East Orthodox Church. I want to see if there's any part in there about how to steal money from your church. Maybe that's where McDonald got it. I'm not sure. Reformed NPC sends $15. Says, "Get yourself something nice for your birthday, sir." Thank you very much. That smell after Bechtloff has tussled with a redhead in the backseat of his car. Yes, that's a little bit what it smells like. I once had a Volvo back in high school that smelled a lot like that. What else? What else? You know what? Does anybody want to call in before I wrap things up?
She don't do much, but she makes one heck of a scarecrow. We strive for simplicity here, Dexter. We do without all those modern conveniences you take for granted.
Like neural net computers?
Like plumbing.
But yeah, anybody wants to call in, I'll give you all a few minutes. Skype is the bechtloff. You could even message me on like the Discord or something like that. Give you all a few minutes. I know there's a delay. But if not, probably gonna wrap things up. I guess Captain Marvel came out this weekend. Everybody gives a shit. I don't.
The general consensus is that it's painfully average.
It looks pretty bad. It does look pretty bad. Like I said numerous times on here before, there was once a time where Carol Danvers was one of my favorite characters at Marvel. That time is long past, and this movie is definitely not an interpretation of her I have any interest in. And it just all the marketing around it was obnoxious, you know. And there was Disney pulling stunts like Disney. Okay, I don't know who exactly did this. Somebody tweeted from Stan Lee's official Twitter account on Friday, "Hey, make sure you all go see Captain Marvel."
Oh.
Now, I'm going to guess that Stan Lee did not tweet from beyond the grave and that some shithead Disney executive paid whoever's in charge of his estate to do that or something, but that's shitty. That is shitty, okay?
It's Miss Marvel! That's Ms. Marvel to you.
And, you know, there's all this stuff with Rotten Tomatoes pulling stunts where they were, you know, messing with the scores. And there's allegations that they were having bots put positive scores up and stuff like that. The whole thing's... And, you know what? And a lot of theaters were only showing Captain Marvel. Ultimately, all these stunts aren't going to get butts in the seats, though. Nobody wants to see it. It'll do okay just based on the strength of the Marvel brand. But even the shill media is having to admit it's not good.
This version of Miss Marvel from X-Men is more accurate and better.
Oh, and the other thing, now this I'm hearing. I don't know the exact details of this. Apparently, the movie reveal, you know, there's like a cat hanging out with Miss Marvel. There's a fucking pet cat she has or something because it's the first Marvel movie made by and for cat ladies. Well, apparently the reason Nick Fury loses his eye is because the cat scratched him. There you go. There's your big fuck you, Marvel fans.
You know it has to be true.
Now, I'm not sure off the top of my head how the regular Marvel Universe version of Nick Fury lost his eye. I think it was like Hydra or some shit like that. The Ultimate Universe version of Nick Fury, which the movie is largely based off of, lost his eye in a fight with pre-Weapon X Wolverine. Now, I get it. The Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't have X-Men. I get it. But couldn't it have been like the Winter Soldier on some mission or some badass Hydra agent, or he lost his eye saving the world from some renegade SHIELD agent? No, he lost his eye because the kitty cat scratched him. Get fucked, Marvel. Get fucked, Disney. Fuck you. Just that was anybody who cares about this movie series. That was a fuck you too. Remember the line in Captain America 2 when they're arguing about freedom versus security and all this other stuff, and Nick Fury's like, "I'm not in the habit of trusting people. Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye." Apparently, that somebody was a cat. Get fucked. Get fucked, Brie Olsen. Get fucked, Samuel Jackson. Get fucked, everybody who defends this dumpster fire. Just get fucked. here's what I need you to do. If you're defending this movie, I need you to fuck off. And then I need you to fuck off from there. And keep fucking off until you go in this circle and come right back where you started. And then fuck off once more. That's what I need you to do.
Yeah, the original like Flurry, he just lost his eye in some sort of explosion.
I mean, that's cooler than the kitty cat scratched him.
So a buddy of mine in my church group like works at this Passion City Church, which is like from Atlanta, and then like he invited me there, and it actually seems like they're doing a lot of good. Like they're helping their community and stuff. So maybe if like ran by the right people, this big church stuff can work. But
well, I mean that's I don't know. I tend to think that a pastor should have that a congregation should be small enough that a pastor knows everybody in his congregation, and that like it's fine if you want to have a network of connected churches that pull resources and stuff, but I mean a church shouldn't be more than I don't think it should be more than a few hundred people, maybe 1,000. But these massive churches with these football stadium auditoriums full of tens of thousands of people for each service, that's ridiculous. I don't think that that's how a church should function. Now, yeah, that in and of itself doesn't automatically mean it's going to be corrupt and shiftless, and the pastor's going to be stealing money and God knows what else. But I don't think in that position the pastor can really fulfill his mandate of being a shepherd.
yeah, I don't think it's the same pastor. I think they just brought a part of their congregation over here to where I live to help run and set up this church. And also like a buddy of mine, like, hey, you want to go see Captain Marvel to like me and my other friend? And I was like, no, I don't want to see that. It's propaganda. And like my other buddy didn't end up going either. So I was happy to convince him not to see Captain Marvel and give the shills more money.
Well, even the propaganda aspect. I mean, literally it's a character I once loved, and it's the worst possible interpretation of her brought to film. So I mean, yeah, I don't want to go see it. I don't want to go see. I'd love to. I'd love to see a movie that highlights the Kree Skrull War and all that other stuff. That stuff's cool. The Skrulls are cool as hell. I love that, but no.
Well, at least if they want to make a character like that, create a new character. Don't ruin people's childhood and like ruin a character like Captain Marvel.
Give me a movie about Captain Marvel, the Kree guy, and then Miss Marvel, her sidekick, and then you can have, because you're having it take place in the 90s, then you can have Carol Danvers be Captain Marvel in the present day. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, they should. It's frustrating. At least sell it to Fox or someone that could make a good interpretation.
I mean, I don't know. This is a pretty, look, this is a movie series that's gone on for over 20 movies, and we're just now getting one that's just objectively terrible. I mean, even Black Panther wasn't this bad. Black Panther, it was more the idiots, promoting it than it was the actual movie or people involved in it.
I enjoyed the film itself. I didn't enjoy the leading up to it.
So, yeah, I didn't see it either, but it doesn't strike me as being a bad movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the best in the series, but I wouldn't say this strikes me as a legitimately bad movie.
Yeah.
And
guys, I'm looking at the wiki description. You want to know what the cat is?
What is the cat?
During which Fury retrieves the Tesseract and Goose, the cat, who is revealed to be an alien housing a pocket dimension, consumes it before scratching his eye and blinding him.
Okay, well, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah. But it's still, I don't know.
She's a cat lady.
It's still cat lady.
Goose.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it was just a cat scratched his eye. Like that's how bad this movie looks that I could believe that Nick Fury just loses his eye because he pets the cat the wrong way.
Or opens a champagne bottle wrong or something,
Apparently the cat comes back and regurgitates the Tesseract.
Wait, the cube?
Yeah, the Tesseract.
The cube was supposed to be lost in the sea.
No, Tony Stark's dad got it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're right. My bad. Yeah, they did get the cube early on. Okay, you're right. I was thinking they got the cube around the same time they found Cap. You're right.
Weird that Hydra didn't take it, since they were all over Shield during that time.
Oh yeah.
But they basically ran Shield.
Yeah.
Low key, so they sort of had it.
Well, I guess Nick Fury was keeping his eye on it.
The one good thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is they further elaborate on a lot of that, like what Hydra was doing, like the extent of which they controlled a lot of things.
I heard Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got a lot better. I gave up on it, I think partway through the first season. I just this is so boring.
Well, I want to say one of the major characters in the first season actually turns out to be a Hydra agent.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard. What was really disappointing was the Agents of Carter thing, or the Peggy Carter show, or whatever.
Yeah, that was.
For one thing, it was incredibly poorly produced. I remember, I hadn't even watched it because I thought it looked bad, but my dad had watched it, and he's a huge car guy, and he was talking about how the cars were wrong for the year. But the other thing that I thought was such a wasted potential, first of all, when I watched the first episode, it was full of bullshit feminism, and it was all like she was a lady spy back when they didn't like that, and I'm like, that's bullshit. Women have always been preferred as spies.
Well, I saw the first episode of that, and I just dropped it. Like
literally, the book, The Art of War, says go send your enemy prostitutes to get information. Okay, women have always been preferred as spies.
I mean, that's what the Canaanites did to the Israelites.
When
they were coming in. It's been going on for thousands of years.
But you know what would have been cool to do with the Carter show? Marvel has a lot of golden age characters that exist even in universe back in the 40s. You know what I mean? Superheroes that operated in the 40s. You could have highlighted those characters, and those characters would have all had a real pulp edge to them. They would have had a slightly noir edge at times to them, and they would have been completely fresh to the general population. Characters like Miss Marvel or the Destroyer or the Wizard or other Golden Age Marvel characters that they almost never get to use. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You could have used those in the show. You could have had a Golden Age style superhero show on TV, right?
Right.
That would have been completely fresh to the general population. It would have been something even I, as a comic book fan, wouldn't see a lot of. People would have loved that. That would have lasted. And it could have still been the Agent Carter show. It could have just been they're dealing with all these new superheroes popping up. That would have been fantastic.
Maybe an occasional cameo appearance of Winter Soldier at some point. Stuff like that.
Have the Destroyer and stuff. Just that would have been all badass.
They had the Wizard in Jessica Jones season 2, actually.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. He's a fat guy, though. It was kind of funny. It's like this pudgy guy who claimed he could run really fast, and Jessica's like, yeah, right.
I never caught any of that except the first 2 seasons of Daredevil.
Right. Well,
I still haven't seen season 3 yet. Daredevil.
All those shows have been canned.
Well, I know they're canceled. Can you still watch them now?
Yeah, you can
on Netflix. I was gonna say I've been meaning to at least watch the season 3 of Daredevil. I mean, season 1 of Daredevil is basically a masterpiece, and season 2 is good.
Season 1 of Jessica Jones was really good because it dealt with like at one point, the Purple Man becomes this sort of 3-dimensional character. Like at one point he complains about the fact that he sort of grew up with this power, and what was he supposed to do with it? You know what I mean? Like, you can tell people what you want them to do all the time. Like, what are you gonna do?
You almost can't turn it off.
Yeah. And so they dealt with that aspect of it. She tries to reform him at one point for a little bit. That of course fails because he's a shitbag.
Yeah, Purple Man was a pretty cool character. The original Alias comic that was based off of was good stuff.
Supposed to be like originally it was supposed to be what, Spider-Woman? was going to be?
Yeah, it was going to be Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, and then Marvel was like, "Now we're doing other stuff with her," and he was like, "Fine, I'll make my own version of Jessica Drew." And
yeah,
it's kind of amazing how much of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is taken directly from. What the hell was that? I don't know who did that. Don't do that again. But taken directly from comics of the 2000s. People forget what a great decade for comics the 2000s were. I mean, obviously the 2010s have been not so good, but the 2000s were pretty bitching. Like, yeah, the 90s were pretty rough. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people defend the 90s, and the 90s were certainly better than what we got now, but the 90s were rough. Hell, you can almost track a like 20-year cycle in the history of comics where like even numbered decades are great and odd numbered decades suck. I mean, you got the 40s, which is basically the beginning of superhero comics. Then you got the 50s when superhero comics were damn near illegal. Then you got the 60s where you got the Silver Age. Then you got the 70s where there was a whole lot of nothing. You know, it was basically chasing trends. It was blaxploitation and kung fu superheroes primarily. Then the 80s. The 80s were, you know, that's when the X-Men became relevant again. That's when all that killer stuff with Daredevil. You had Crisis on Infinite Earths. You had Watchmen. You had Dark Knight Returns. You know, Secret Wars. Just amazing shit. Then you got the 90s where, well, yeah. Then you got the 2000s. The 2000s were amazing. You got the Ultimate books back when that meant something. You had the launch of the Max line, like, you know, Alias. You had JMS writing, you know, Eisner Award-winning stories in Amazing Spider-Man. You had New Avengers. Basically, the entire decade of Avengers was fantastic. You got what? You got over at DC. You got stuff like, you know, Jeff Jones basically completely revitalizing the Green Lantern mythos.
Yeah,
you know, he brought back Hal. He put things in the Green Lantern mythos that seem so naturally fitting and so intricate to it that it's hard to believe that it wasn't always there. Stuff like all the different colored lanterns beyond the yellow lanterns, you know what I mean? You know, the black lanterns and all. Jeff Jones' run on Green Lantern was amazing. And you can tell right from the very beginning of his run, like with, you know, Green Lantern Rebirth, right up until about 5 years later when he got to Blackest Night, you could tell he was working his way to Blackest Night the whole time. The 2000s were amazing for comics. Just great stuff almost all around. And then, you know, the 2000s also saw when Image finally got good. There was a little bit of decent Image stuff in the 90s, like the Top Cow stuff was pretty good. But for the most part, Image comics in the 90s were ass. They were everything that was wrong with comics in the 90s. But in the 2000s, you had Walking Dead, you had Invincible, you had Bomb Queen, you had Godland. Just amazing stuff over at Image.
They need to do make a good Green Lantern movie.
I still like the Green Lantern movie. Now, I'll admit it could have been done a lot better, but it's still, in my opinion, it's still one of DC's best movies. It is one of the best live action DC movies. I would easily put it in the top 10, possibly the top 5. Now, I think a better way to have done it would be to focus more on like a budding friendship between Hal and Sinestro, where Hal slowly realizes Sinestro's corrupt. Basically Training Day, but in space.
Right.
That would be that would have been a better way to do it. But all in all, I think it's a pretty decent flick. I don't really understand why people shit on it so much.
I think one of the primary complaints I have with that one is it was too short for an origin story.
It definitely put a lot of shit in there in a hurry. Like I remember when again, you know, my dad's a guy who loves superhero movies but never reads any of the comics, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He likes superheroes, he just doesn't feel like reading comics, you know, but if there's a show or a movie, he's all about it. And I remember I saw it in the theater. He didn't see it in the theater with me, but I brought it home one day on DVD and he sits down to watch it. And, you know, there's a huge exposition dump at the beginning of it.
Right.
Like just verbal, like just here you go. And he's sort of like reading a magazine as he's like reading it, and he sort of puts the magazine down. He goes, "Oh, so I got to pay attention to this one, don't I?"
Yeah.
like this ain't the remedial class. They just dumped 1 billion years worth of exposition on me in 30 seconds. Maybe I need to pay attention.
I mean, maybe they shouldn't have done like parallax in the first movie or something.
Like I said, I would have stuck with the dynamic between Hal and Sinestro, where like Sinestro takes Hal under, which this is how it happens in the comics. Sinestro takes Hal under his wing like almost immediately. Like, well, if Abin Sur saw something worthwhile in you, then you're okay in my book. I'm going to show you the ropes, that kind of stuff. And slowly Hal realizes, wait, Sinestro's an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not a cop in his sector, he's a dictator. And then brings it to the attention of the Guardians, and the Guardians are like, oh, we didn't know he was doing all that shit. Yeah, he can't be doing that.
Right.
That would have obviously been a better movie, but what we got was pretty decent. It's still definitely one of my personal favorites.
I will say that the DC animated movies that have been coming out lately have been really good.
Oh yeah, there have been some really solid ones.
They did the whole Death of Superman, Reign of the Supermen 2-parter movie, and those were awesome. Just everything.
Yeah, and I've long thought that would have made an awesome animated movie. I like those original comics a lot. I mean, the only one that's kind of a weak character among them was Eradicator.
Yeah,
that's kind of the one that went nowhere.
He had a pretty cool look, and then he just kind of fizzled out.
Well, if you think about it, part of that's because he's the only one that like try explaining his origin in a sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everybody else, it's pretty straightforward. Like, okay, you got Cyborg Superman. Okay, evil Cyborg pretending to be Superman. There you go. Is there more to it than that? Oh yeah, but you get the gist right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Steel. Guy inspired by Superman makes Iron Man-like armor. There you go. Superboy, clone of Superman. There you go. There's a lot more to all those guys than that, obviously, but you get the core of it right away. Eradicator? Holy shit, dude, how much time you got? Is the answer to who is Eradicator,
Well, the movies did a pretty good job of getting him down without
Because if you think about it, the other three went on to really, really matter in the DC universe for a long time. I mean, Cyborg became a recurring villain in Green Lantern a lot. By a decade later, he's a member of the Sinestro Corps, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Steel was a member of the Justice League in good standing for a very long time. Superboy was in Young Justice and then later Teen Titans. All those characters basically went on to matter except Eradicator. He was sort of in the Outsiders for a little bit. He'd pop up here and there, but nobody cared.
The cool thing about him was he was like the vigilante version of Superman.
It was all Punisher Superman, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe it's not Zell and the Pompadouche recite the complete annotated history of asymmetrical titwanktopia from the Big Bang to that ass fucking afternoon.
I like the Death and Return of Superman stuff. I picked up a lot of that back in the 2000s when comics were really, really cheap. I picked up almost all of that. Great stuff all around.
Yep.
There was like this weird mafia boss dressed like Emma Frost from the X-Men that Steel was fighting during that time. Like each one was basically going on in one of the 4 Superman books and basically had their own little sub-stories.
Right.
I love the 90s Superboy series too. Like that and spending half the time just chasing pussy.
Why wouldn't you?
There was like an evil villain chick named Knockout that like was trying to tell Superboy, I'm not really a villain. And he's just wanted to fuck her. So he was like, I believe her. And he's like protecting her. She's a good girl. She didn't do nothing.
Isn't she a lesbian?
Aren't all women?
No,
no.
Is she the one from Apocalypse?
She is from Apocalypse, and I believe she is. It's heavily implied she's bi.
Okay,
but in that way that most women are.
I think she actually was it one of what's his name?
Because she was fucking the shit out of Superboy, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And she clearly wasn't totally a lesbian. DZ sends $2 and says, "Get your Wario Land on." Thank you very much.
I will say, I watched Cloak and Dagger actually over the summer, and it was pretty good for what it was.
I liked Cloak and Dagger. I always have. And a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people on the right are very sick of miscegenation getting pushed the way it is. Some people are perhaps a bit too concerned about that than maybe they should be. But even I'm annoyed by how much it's pushed. But you have to remember with Cloak and Dagger, there's a reason it's a white girl and a black guy. And it has nothing to do with some sort of social agenda. Now, maybe that's why they got a show these days. Who knows? But the reason is these are characters, and one guy has shadow powers, and the other chick, and the chick has light powers, right?
Right.
And because comics are a very visual and melodramatic medium, we're going to make the chick with the light powers a pale-skinned blonde with blue eyes, and we're going to make the dude with the black powers, or the shadow powers, a black dude.
Right.
Because, we want you to just look at these characters and get what's going on. Okay.
Well, the other thing too is they weren't dating or anything in the show. Like
I know they were in the comics, but
they just
part of that's
teamed up.
because part of that's because the nature of their powers in the comics, like literally, at least with Cloak, he kind of needs her around, or he starts to get consumed by the Shadow Force.
Starts eating people.
Yeah, so I mean, I've liked those characters in the comic for a long time. I mean, there were Spider-Man characters for a long time, and I liked them a lot. And I was never bothered by, I'm never going to be bothered by the miscegenation aspect of it because, I mean, if anything, it's it's just the fact that they wanted to be really, really on the nose with the character designs. That's all it is.
Although if they wanted to have a little more fun of it, they would have the Cloak be a white guy in a black outfit and Dagger be a black girl in the white outfit.
I mean, it could have easily gone that way, too. I think part of the reason you ended up with the person with the light powers being the chick is to sort of have that kind of Beauty and the Beast trope where, the calming influence of a woman is what keeps a guy from losing his shit and going savage. That's kind of the trope they were playing on there.
Right.
Which, I mean, again, you have to remember, that's comics. These are, the really well done, iconic comics are the kind of things where you sort of get what's going on at a glance with a character. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, the thing that people might find objectionable is at one point the Cloak character sort of yells at Dagger, like, you're a white girl, you can go anywhere. And I'm just like, well, yeah, she's a hot young blonde. Like, she could walk into any party, and just walk right in, and no one would think twice about her not being there.
Well, yeah, but you also have superpowers and can do damn near whatever you want. So calm down there, Cloak.
Yeah, well, at that point he hadn't fully realized them yet. So, in fact, it takes him the entire season to fully realize his powers.
I actually remember a cool moment I remember with Cloak was in Infinity Gauntlet when they were all fighting Thanos. Mm-hmm. Dagger was gone. She was presumably part of the 50% that was dusted. And at one point, Cloak tries to trap Thanos in his little, shadow pocket dimension. And he's like, I think I can hold him. Oh, no, never mind. And then he explodes.
Yeah.
And Thanos is like, you cannot imprison supremacy.
Good effort.
Yeah.
I was just saying, as far as the next Avengers movie, wouldn't it be a great intro where they show Captain Marvel getting the page from Fury, and then she just gets dusted? It's like, what? Oh.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
That's how they should start it out. But I think the mid-credit scene on Captain Marvel actually dispels that. So unfortunately.
How boring was it for you?
I haven't watched it. That's what I heard,
Yeah, I didn't go see it. I'm not going to go see it. I mean, I didn't even go see Black Panther, and Black Panther didn't look bad. I was just like, everybody told me I have to go see it or I'm an evil racist, and I don't respond well to emotional blackmail, so you can all get fucked. But I don't even dislike Black Panther as a character. It's probably an okay movie. But this actually looks like a bad movie.
Well, Black Panther had a huge, globalist theme to it. Huge, in your face.
Yeah, if anything, because they open up his nation and all this other stuff. I mean, doesn't Black Panther sort of start off basically being all alt-right?
Yes.
He's a monarchist. He's anti-miscegenation.
Yep.
He's anti-interventionist. He's isolationist.
There's also an element of racism to that movie in the sense that the villain wants to send all the Wakandan advanced tech to all the black people around the world so they can rise up and kill all the white people, because that's what black people are doing with their time, is plotting to kill all the white people.
One of the cool moments I remember from a cool Black Panther moment I remember in the comics was the JLA Avengers crossover. There was some cosmic space god from each universe that was pitting the two teams against each other, and it was like a game these gods were playing with each other where the teams had to acquire all these powerful artifacts, right? So Justice League and Avengers members are all over each of the two Earths trying to find these and fighting over it and all. And one of them is in Wakanda on the Marvel Earth. And literally, while some JLAers and some Avengers are fighting over, just beating the shit out of each other, Black Panther just sort of finds it and grabs it. And he wasn't even an active Avenger at this point, but it still counted for the Avengers. And he was just sort of get out of my country.
Exactly.
Quit trashing my country. All right. What are you? I don't even know. Who are these guys you're fighting? Get away. Go. Leave me out of this.
I'll say,
In the Black Panther, you'll find out we built those pyramids in Egypt. You'll find out we were mining Mapungubwe and melting gold and iron and making spears during Shaka's time. You'll see the Zimbabwe rooms that we built stuff.
Somebody says we need more cosplayers in dagger outfits. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, you don't see many of those, definitely.
I saw years ago a cosplayers, and it was a white dude and a black chick, and the white dude was dressed like Dagger, and the black chick was dressed like Cloak.
Oh,
and it was so fucking funny. It was obviously done for laughs. It was 10 years ago before, nowadays you see that and you think, oh, good God, what is it? What pride parade is this? But back then it was just obviously done for laughs. Everyone was having a good, but the white guy's got the dagger cutouts on his chest. And it's just so perfect. So I wish I could find that picture again. Because it looked like they were a couple and they were just sort of having fun with, back when we were allowed to have fun. Remember that? Remember that about 10 years ago?
Good old days.
Back when people had a sense of humor about shit.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I miss those days.
I guess that's when they were part of the X-Men.
Yeah, they were. There's been all sorts of recons about their origin, and at one point they were trying to say that they were mutants, which is weird because there's this blatantly supernatural element to their powers.
Right. Well, there's a Colossus's sister is called Magic, and she has magical powers, but she's a mutant. It's kind of a weird.
I don't necessarily mind that too much, but I could see an argument that a mutant could just have a natural ability to manipulate magic.
Right.
But I don't know. The cloak and dagger thing, it was very obvious that, they changed their origins so many times. No, it turns out it's this.
Right.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch, I mean, her mutant power is that she can manipulate probabilities and a quantum level, and she has magic powers just because that sort of made it easy for her to learn magic.
Right. Plus, her name's Scarlet Witch. You gotta give her magic powers.
And then in the movies, she just has like kind of general mind bullet powers.
Right.
What's the actress's name that plays Scarlet Witch? She's hot as fuck.
She's an Olsen sister.
Yeah,
I know. She's like a younger sister of the Olsen twins, isn't she?
What's her name?
Elizabeth.
Oh man, I'd rail the shit out of her.
Oh yeah, Elizabeth. You're right.
She was even hot when she was being all like creepy and dark when she was still a bad guy in Avengers 2.
Yep.
I'm like, oh man, that is some kind of crazy. You know, you shouldn't stick your dick in, but you're gonna.
You know, it's funny. So that actress and the actor who played Quicksilver played husband and wife in the first Godzilla movie in 2014.
That's right, they did.
It's crazy.
I hope they don't fuck up the X-23 movie.
They're doing.
I didn't even know they were doing that.
I thought they were. Are they not?
I don't know. I don't know. Fox never seems to know what the hell they're doing with the X-Men.
I heard The Gifted was good, and that like it takes place like after Logan or something, and it's dealing with like all the mutants dealing with the fact that they were decimated by corn syrup, essentially. You know?
I liked Logan a lot.
Yeah.
So did I.
It's weird. I had a buddy that wanted to like borrow the Old Man Logan trade after he saw Logan, and I'm like, just to warn you, like this is completely different.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing in that it's a story of of Logan as an old guy, but you know this has a ton of broader Marvel Universe shit into it. You know, like the Red Skull taking over America, and there's symbiotes that have taken over dinosaurs and out in the Southwest.
We all know that was supposed to be a metaphor for Mexicans.
I think it was just that the artist wanted to draw. I wanted an excuse to draw a T-Rex with a symbiote.
Yeah, looks like this Olsen sister escaped all the drugs and fame.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's hot as fuck. Yeah, dude, I remember watching Avengers 2, and I you know when she's like all creepy and evil at the beginning of the movie, and I'm like, holy shit, she's hot as hell. My buddy looks over at me, he's like, you have issues. I'm like, oh, you don't know the half of it. Never claimed I didn't.
Is that a scar from your porn watching days?
It's no, that's just the type of crazy women I've ran with.
Takes a lot to tame those kind of women, if
Yeah.
it's even possible.
You basically got to keep a cattle prod on you.
Don't go to sleep before they do. That kind of thing. You go to sleep before they do, they, you know, wake up with a hammer in the wall above you because she threw it at you.
Yeah, but she missed on purpose. It was a warning shot.
Right.
No, officer, she loves me. Yeah, it's been a slow news week. I mean, I know I haven't really paid that much attention to the news, but I usually catch news stories just by accident. And I just nothing really caught me this week.
I mean, Mueller was supposed to do something yesterday, and he didn't, which wasn't surprising.
I don't know. The ongoing Russia drama, it's so... I with just the Trump stuff in general, I don't even like to comment on the ongoing aspects of it, because it's like it feels like as soon as I finish a sentence, I've been proven wrong, or
right.
or what I was saying has been proven irrelevant or something. Like it's just so constantly shifting that I don't know.
There
So
was
I stepped off the wall and I fired 2 warning shots into his head.
So there was actually someone tried to crash into the presidential motorcade yesterday. They didn't really.
I heard there was like a crash by it, but I hadn't heard it was confirmed an assassination attempt.
Huh. I mean, it's really hard to say it was, but I'm gonna say it was because you know There's all kinds of crazies out there.
I mean, the thing that protects the president is like it's pretty easy to assassinate a president if you accept that it's a suicide mission. Like
Right.
it's the general stability of society around the president that is the thing that protects him the most. You know, the fact that you'd never get away with it, even if you were succeeded. That's the thing that's really that's why when you got presidents like Obama that were just, nipping away at society so much, it's like, buddy, that's the thing keeping you safe.
I'm surprised there weren't a whole lot of assassination attempts on Obama, because we would have never heard the end of it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, again, the right tends to play fair, often to their detriment. Somebody in the chat just said, "Looks like Thanos is wiping Michael Jackson from the social fabric of Western civilization." Yeah, I heard the Simpsons official archive has erased that episode from early seasons that Michael Jackson did the voice in. And I'm one of those guys who, for a while, I just assumed he was guilty because I didn't really give much thought to it, and he was weird as fuck. So I figured, he probably did it. But I gotta admit, those Razor Fist videos really changed my mind on it. I don't buy for a minute anymore that he did.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the people who are saying he's a pedophile are pedophiles.
Yeah,
it's like pot meet kettle. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't buy it anymore. I think he's getting railroaded.
Yeah, I bet you would fuck Millie Bobby Brown too, you pedophiles.
So in the chat says the wild redhead cannot be tamed, only aroused.
Like Typhoid Mary.
Yep.
She was in season 2 of Iron Fist.
Was she portrayed well?
Pretty well. She didn't have any special powers. She was just like a special forces type.
Because she was in the Elektra movie and she was fucking awful in that. Like that was in name only.
Yeah. She was not she was definitely schizophrenic in this one, but she didn't have any of those like telekinesis or whatever.
I gotta say, for as much of a Daredevil fan as I am, I do not really like Elektra, and I think that is an incredibly overrated part of the Daredevil mythos.
Well, she's probably dead in the MCU at this point.
Well, I mean, even in the comics, she was created to die a redemptive death, and then they brought her back.
Right.
And Undertow once said she's the Shadow the Hedgehog of the Marvel Universe in that regard.
Having been recovered from Neverland Ranch. Hell, even the article in question links to another horrifically sourced article of an interview with one of Michael Jackson's many hush-hush girlfriends, in which she says in no uncertain terms that he didn't own child porn, boned bitches like it was going out of style, and emphatically states that he did not fuck kids.
But yeah, Karen Page is a much better love interest for Daredevil, and Typhoid Mary is a much better femme fatale. So, I mean, my biggest problem with the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie is, frankly, Elektra. Jennifer Gardner is a terrible actress, and she's not good looking enough to make up for it. And Elektra's not that interesting of a character. Everything else about the Daredevil movie from 2003 worked out pretty well. I think Ben Affleck was a pretty good Matt Murdock. Hell, I even think Michael Clark Duncan was pretty good King Ben.
Good Bad Flicks, if you haven't checked out that channel, it's pretty good.
I like that channel a lot, yeah.
He had a pretty good exploring Daredevil video a while back. I don't know if it's up on YouTube anymore because of copyright, but he talked about how like there was a lot that producers demanded to be added in to the movie that they didn't want to do originally. Like they when the sex scene between the two of them wasn't originally in the original plot.
I will also say I saw the director's cut because I didn't get to see it in the theater. I saw it on DVD.
Yeah.
So that might also be part of the reason I liked it, and some of the people didn't like it in the theater. I don't know what it was like in the theater.
Well, you saw Coolio in that one, right?
Yeah, he was in there.
Yeah, he's not in the theatrical release,
Huh.
which introduces a huge plot hole in the end when the police suddenly know who Wilson Fisk is.
Yeah.
You know,
I like the Daredevil movie. I think, especially for the time, it's a pretty solid flick. Like I said, Elektra's my biggest problem with it. It's and I mean, if you were to like look at the DVD cover or the movie poster, it's Daredevil and Elektra on the movie poster.
Right.
And we didn't get a Daredevil 2, we got Elektra. So they were pimping her in a big way in that movie, and to its detriment. Again, that actress is not, she's not a good actress. She's not attractive enough to make up for it.
I mean, for me, she was attractive, but her acting still shit.
I don't know. I mean, you could cut a roast on her chin. But, I mean, I'm not saying she's an ugly woman, but she's not very good looking by Hollywood standards. Let me put it that way. Like, you know, a good example, like, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. The chick that played Invisible Woman in the 2000. Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba is not a very good actress, but she's pretty damn good looking. And the people that wrote those Fantastic Four movies, they knew, let's not put too much weight on that pillar. I like the Fantastic Four movies, actually, except for Doctor Doom. Everything about those movies works out really, really well, except for Doctor Doom.
Yeah, Doom is supposed to be sort of
Doom is so badass. All right.
Yeah.
Doom is he's this guy who runs his own country, walks around in an Iron Man armor, and is an accomplished sorcerer.
Right.
That's pretty fucking badass. Okay?
Well, on top of that, he's very dramatic and everything those Saturday morning cartoon villains is. You know?
Yeah, and in a way that really works, in a way that feels, it doesn't feel try hard with him ever. You know, it just feels like this is just how he is. But I like everything else about those movies. I think the guy that played Thing was great. The guy from The Shield played Thing. I think the guy that played Reed Richards was great. Even in the second one, I like the guy that played Silver Surfer. I like the guy that played not Nick Fury from the military, and the chick that played not Carol Danvers. Like, interestingly, in Fantastic Four 2, there's a black guy and a white chick that were in the Air Force that are like the military liaisons to the Fantastic Four. And those characters were originally supposed to be Nick Fury and Carol Danvers. And they turned out they just didn't have the rights for them. So they just changed the names, kept the characters identical, basically. But I like those characters in it. The one decent moment Doom has in those two movies is when he steals Silver Surfer's powers. Yeah, there's a lot to like in those movies, but it's sort of like the kind of thing where there's really only one flaw, but it's a fatal flaw. You know, I mean, if your villain sucks, you don't have much of a story, you know? Likewise with Daredevil, I would say there's only really one major flaw to it, but it's a fatal flaw, and that's Elektra. All right. Well, I think we've gone on for long enough, rambling on about some dumb bullshit. That James McDonald article was a lot more dense than I thought it would be. That was pretty good. I should check out more stuff from that blog. But folks, if you enjoy the live stream, you want to support the show. Obviously, we're going to have super chats going forward, at least for a while. Hopefully they at least let me keep it long enough to cash out at least once. But no, seriously, super chats are greatly appreciated, folks. And also, there is the PayPal and Patreon and Amazon wishlist. Those are greatly appreciated. And you can check out the sponsor, Steve's Jerky, because the more you check out the sponsor, the more he wants to keep being a sponsor. And that's a win-win because you get some delicious Steve's Jerky. So, and everyone who's had Steve's Jerky has raved about it. So get you some Steve's Jerky.
He's a good guy. You should support him.
And the stuff's just good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass here, people. Like, I know I'm being paid to. Yeah, okay, fine. Steve's Jerky is delicious. Okay, I will swear on a stack of Bibles that Steve's Jerky is worth your money, folks. So yeah, that's about all we got for this week. I want to thank you all for listening, and bechtloff out.